Today I want to take you through some income protection planning forecasting for some younger clients. This is usually the focus with younger clients. Protection planning is much more important as they haven't had enough time to build up the capital assets to protect themselves later in life. Planning for people who are closer to retirement, protection can often take somewhat of a back seat as they've managed to build up their own capital which can protect them rather than having to rely on insurance policies. To give you an example, these are some clients who've given us a really good breakdown of what they want their future to look like. Together they've got a good idea of where they see their life. They want to have another child, they want to pay for some university fees, they also want to pay for school fees. They're lucky enough because of the wife being a teacher to have some reduced costs on these fees, where they come in at only around about £4,500 a year. But they've broken all of this down. Mr. is an executive and has a well-paid position, and Mrs. is a teacher and has a solid pay level as well. In terms of savings, they've already built up some cash savings, some smaller pensions, they own their own property with a sizable mortgage on, and they've got a small loan. There is some smaller protection that's built into their company benefits, a 1-year income protection plan for Mr. and some death in service for Mrs. And their expenditure is still relatively high, being in the early years. They've been very clear about some of their long-term objectives, these lifetime holidays that they want to enjoy, the weddings that they want to be able to pay for, and some pre-retirement enjoyment. So when we take this to their timeline, we can see this lovely, full, broken down timeline with, enjoyment items here, retirement at set dates in the 60s here, and some expenditure requirements for their children. We take that through to the Let's See page, and when we see a lovely blue graph like this, it's always great. The light blue line here showing the client's required minimum expenditure, their bills, direct debits, mortgage payments and taxes, and then the black line showing all of those additional spending, your discretionary, eating out, holidays, weddings, etc. built in here. And whilst they're both working, there's some excess above the black line, which is great to see. And then throughout their retirement, no red, showing no shortfall. The other graph, which looks lovely in this position, are their liquid assets. A shape we love is growing those assets over time, and then at the point of retirement, seeing these reduce so that they're not dying with hundreds of thousands of pounds in the bank. A nice shape to have, a nice flexible solution. However, what the clients wanted to look at was what happens if the main breadwinner does have any illnesses. And so within the timeline, we build in an income protection need here, where Mr. the main breadwinner falls ill and cannot work, with a relatively speedy recovery over around about a 3-year period. And what we can see on this graph now is here where there is the reduced income, there's a year where the company will continue to pay him. There's a year where all of their savings, apart from pensions which they can't access, are spent. And then there's a shortfall, a difficult year where they don't have enough to meet their requirements. And whilst this could be dealt with by tightening their belts, life then becomes fine as Mr. goes back to work. But the long-term effect on their plan is really quite awful. You can see from years 80 and 85 onwards, the clients are just running out of money, shown by their liquid assets running out here. And it's that compounded effect of the savings made over here being spent rather than saved and given decades to earn and grow that causes the main issue. And this realistically is not the scenario that they are most worried about. The scenario that they are most worried about is a long-term illness. And here what we have done is we have started the illness at the same time at 41, but it's not until 65 before Mr. recovers from his illness and will be okay to go back to work. And if we look at this now, we can see it's a completely different picture. There's a shortfall throughout where Mrs.'s salary doesn't meet the required needs. Spending and some pension savings are used up here. And there's a small few years where things are okay, and then retirement obviously is going to be very difficult for them. So to protect their standard of living, we wanted to look at how could we potentially change this. And one way to change this is to add in an income protection policy. And you can see here, that's the 1-year income protection from the company, and this is the new income protection policy for our client. With some very estimated figures here, we would need to go through these depending on a range of different criteria, but this payment is to release £4,500 a month for the client, replacing his income not to a full extent but to a large extent. And as you can see, we now have a nice blue graph all the way through until age 70-75. Now this includes all of those additional expenditures that they were going to make, and when we talk to these clients, this scenario and this long-term illness is much more likely to change the client's objectives in life and the things that they would realistically do. So in the most realistic scenario, we look at the amended lifestyle and we can see that here it's unlikely they would send their children to private school. There probably wouldn't be university fees paid. They may even qualify for university grants. And they've also looked to reduce their spending on a monthly basis. Now with all of that included, we now come back to the picture where we see again a nice blue graph. Yes, it's a reduced overall spend from what they had originally hoped, but these types of long-term illnesses change people's views on life and their expectations for what they can afford. These clients are still living a very full life. We are still including these lifetime holidays with these peaks here at different ages, and you can see that their liquid assets have a similar kind of shape, albeit tailing off maybe a little bit soon, just before Mrs. turns 90. However, all in all, this protection policy has allowed them to be much more confident that should an awful situation happen, they are still going to be able to live the life that they will be very comfortable and happy with. This is obviously one element of protection that works, and an essential one for people who don't have huge amounts of income protection. The other plans that we will run through later are critical illness and death, early death. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to contact us and we'll run through all of it. Thank you.